Hey everybody, welcome back to AWS What's Next. I'm your host Shashank. If you're just tuning in, AWS What's Next is your opportunity to learn more about the services that were launched here at reInvent. And in this session, we'll be talking about how to manage and automate machine learning pipelines with Amazon SageMaker pipelines. To tell you all about this feature, I have here with me Urvashi and Arun. Urvashi and Arun, would you like to quickly introduce yourself, starting with Urvashi?
Hey Shashank, thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Urvashi Chaudhary. I'm a principal product manager on Amazon SageMaker.
Welcome, Urvashi.
Hi, hi Sachank. Hi everyone. My name is Arun Nagarajan. I'm a senior software development engineer in the SageMaker team.
Awesome. Welcome, both of you. I'm so glad you're here to talk all about Amazon SageMaker pipeline. I think this is a very exciting topic, and I think we are in a very special time here. Machine learning has obviously been around for so long, but it's gotten to a point where it's mature, and companies across all industries and all sizes are using machine learning as part of their products and offering. And while traditional software has mature ways to build pipelines with CI/CD approaches that are well integrated into their organizations. This is new for a lot of organizations, and I know we have SageMaker pipeline that's going to help them do the same, apply the same best practices to machine learning. So let's start by talking about what were some of the main challenges that our customers faced when building and automating machine learning pipelines. What were the main things that customers told us that they wanted to help them do the same for machine learning?
Sure. So machine learning is a pretty iterative process. And as we talked to a lot of our customers, we heard that they had teams of data scientists and machine learning engineers, DevOps engineers working together on machine learning problems. But because of the nature of machine learning, they were running into specific challenges when building machine learning workflows and pipelines. The first challenge that they ran into was building the workflow and pipeline itself is hard because you have many steps like data processing, training, model optimization, evaluation, and then model deployments. And a lot of them have many dependencies between them. So teams were finding it hard to build these machine learning pipelines.
Right.
Then they were having an issue of and running into challenges of troubleshooting these pipelines as they were built and trying to figure out
Mm.
what was going on, and if there were any issues, it was increasing reliance on engineers. As they built more models and scaled out the iterations, they were running into problems around managing models at scale,
Mm.
knowing which models are deployed where, how they were built, what
Right.
metrics were used, for example, and then automating and scaling these pipelines with
Mm.
CI/CD so that you have a repeatable and scalable process while you're able to track end-to-end lineage and understand how models are built and
Mm.
deployed. So these were some common challenges that we heard across our customers, including Care.com, 3M, and iFood, and
Mm.
we built SageMaker pipelines to address some of these challenges.
Right, and it's not just small organization, large organizations have are also facing these challenges. And I think something that you mentioned really stands out, which is machine learning is so unique compared to traditional software development because there are data sets and models and all these different artifacts that you have to track. It's not just your code. So
Yes.
there's so much more than code, and I can easily see that the challenges get more exponentially harder because you have to track lineage across all these things. So what were customers doing before this capability? How were they addressing this?
It's a great question. What we heard from customers were that they didn't have a standard way of doing this. They were either using open source tools like Airflow and other
Mm.
libraries, or they were using AWS capabilities like step functions, and or they were building their own custom workflows and solutions. And CI/CD was hard, so they were resorting to manual processes.
Mm.
So in effect, overall, customers wanted a uh, easy to use solution which was native to SageMaker so that they could have a single pane of glass for end to end machine learning pipelines and that made it easy for them to go from model building all the way through to deployment without having to use multiple tools or rely on manual processes that don't scale.
Right. I think one of the interesting things that you mentioned is I think customers were able to do this, but either they weren't managed solutions wherein they have to manage their own infrastructure and set it up. If there are managed solutions, then they were not machine learning first.
Yes,
They could do this, but they're not integrated with their existing maybe SageMaker workflows. They weren't able to. They had to step out of SageMaker sort of interface to be able to do this. And with the pipelines, we are able to integrate all
bring
of this
everything
under
together.
SageMaker. I think that's like a huge benefit to a lot of data scientists and developers who want to stay in the SageMaker environment. So,
Absolutely. And just to kind of double click on that topic, we built and launched SageMaker Studio, which is our
mm,
purpose built IDE for machine learning. And our uh, goal and Amazon SageMaker Pipelines is supported and launched as part of SageMaker Studio
mm,
as well. So data scientists have are empowered to
more control
build
over.
and run and manage machine learning pipelines while DevOps teams still have flexibility to
Mm.
customize the process if they need to.
That's awesome because they're able to get a view into the entire pipeline automation process without actually having to be an DevOps person or
Yes,
infrastructure person. So this is exciting, and I want to know more about what we launched. So Amazon SageMaker pipelines. What is it? What are some of its key benefits? Tell us more.
absolutely. Well, we're very excited to launch Amazon SageMaker Pipelines. It's the first purpose-built CI/CD service for machine learning. Essentially, Amazon SageMaker Pipelines makes it easy for you to build, manage, automate, and scale machine learning workflows using SageMaker Studio. So, if you recall the challenges that we had talked about that customers face with machine learning, Amazon SageMaker Pipelines is designed to solve all of those challenges. First, we have a SageMaker Python SDK that makes it really easy for data scientists to quickly build these machine learning pipelines by defining a series of parameters and steps and dependencies. As you build these pipelines, you can see in SageMaker Studio the real time execution of the pipeline
Mm,
as well as real time metrics for each and every step of the pipeline. This makes it very easy to troubleshoot issues. You also get all the real time metrics and logs um, in SageMaker Studio, so you can you don't need to rely on others to kind of help you troubleshoot steps if needed. You can also cache steps along with the
mhm,
execution.
mm,
As you go through these iterations and build models, Amazon SageMaker Pipelines also has a model registry capability that we have
mm,
added. The model registry is a catalog for models and versions. So as you build models, you can register them to the model registry from where you can have an approval workflow. So
mm.
data scientists can look at the models, compare them, and say which models are approved for production. So this makes it very easy to manage models. And then to scale and automate the machine learning operations, we have built-in support for CI/CD templates, as well as the ability for customers to bring in custom templates um, that we can use for their machine learning pipelines. And as you build machine learning pipelines with SageMaker pipelines, you get end-to-end lineage tracking as well. So you
Mm.
can easily see what models are deployed in where, how they were built, what pipeline execution was used, what was the training step, for example, what were the parameters. So you get all of that built in out of the box.
I think the lineage and traceability thing you mentioned is, I think, a huge benefit because I've heard this time and again that we want to be able to trace back from
Yes.
when a model is in production. I want to be able to, it went in production 2 months ago, but I want to be able to know what data set was used, what models were, what hyperparameters and what other model
Yeah.
configuration. I think that's huge. I want to come back to that, but uh, when we talk about these pipelines, I feel like the scope of a data scientist sometimes is a little limited. A data scientist spends most of their time maybe defining the models and training, and this varies from organizations to organizations. Some do a little more. For someone who spends a lot of time just doing maybe training, could you say a little more about what is a pipeline and what constitutes a pipeline? What are the various steps that they can get visibility into as they
Absolutely.
step back? Yeah.
Yeah, so building machine learning models can can require a lot of steps. So the first step typically when training models is starting with data. So you may have a step where you pull data from a
Mm,
data source, and then your next step is typically to clean that data and pre-process it or transform that data to create features that you would use for machine learning. So with Amazon SageMaker pipelines, we have built-in integration with Data Wrangler, which is the
mm.
new SageMaker service that was also
We
announced
just launched.
at
Yeah.
reInvent this year.
Right.
So you
Right.
can have a step that a
Mm,
data wrangler step that makes it easy for you to quickly transform your data, create features. These features can be stored in the new SageMaker feature store.
mm,
And from there, you could run additional data processing using SageMaker processing, um, and then use SageMaker training to train your models using built-in SageMaker algorithms or
mm,
popular machine learning frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch, and MXNet
mm,
that SageMaker optimizes to run on SageMaker. So you can construct your pipeline by defining these steps
mm.
and defining the parameters that need to be used for the steps and the dependencies between them. And SageMaker takes care of creating the DSL, orchestrating the pipeline, and executing on your behalf, and managing the dependencies as these
Mm.
pipelines are running. So you can get the trained model artifacts, which you can evaluate and then register in the model registry and use for batch scoring or real time serving.
So many organizations who do this are probably just orchestrating stuff from a notebook today, right? And as you mentioned, I think a lot of the between step uh, information is lost, because if you're orchestrating this with a notebook or just a Python script, then all these other SageMaker services that you're invoking, you're manually figuring out how they connect with each other. And in this case, you have them all in one view.
Yes.
That's fantastic, and it's part of Studio, so you can actually take a look at the pipeline, which I know we'll see in a demo. I'm excited.
Arun will demo it
Yeah.
shortly. I also want to call out you can easily run pipelines using a notebook and or using the Studio UI. With the built-in CI/CD capabilities that we provide, we have templates for model building, model deployment, as well as the end-to-end process. So you can use CI/CD capabilities like source control to make sure
Mm,
that your team has the same code changes that are being made. Everybody has the latest code instead of sharing notebooks
right.
around or running and managing code using notebooks. And then that makes the entire process more scalable and repeatable.
So Urvashi, before we jump to a demo, so there are two key things here, right? There's an SDK that's available for data scientists, so they can, and we'll see this in a demo. But using the SDK, they can string together these
Yes,
various steps that could be other SageMaker capabilities like data wrangler and training, as you mentioned. And there's then the Studio interface that lets you visually interact. So are
yes.
these the key tools that are available as part of the
These are
pipe?
the two key tools available. The third one I would also call out are the CI/CD capabilities, where SageMaker sets up the CI/CD infrastructure for machine learning projects that are using SageMaker pipelines, and that helps you automate um, model building as well as model deployment steps. And
Mm.
these are, uh, you know, these templates, CI/CD templates, can be used within Studio. So you can data scientists don't have to worry about how the CI/CD is being set up. It's being set up for them by SageMaker.
And that's the fully managed part, and I imagine that's the really hard part for a lot of developers and data scientists who are not used to dealing with
It can be a lot of heavy lifting that,
yeah.
we're very excited that SageMaker Pipeline eases some of this, and we'll continue to improve and work on this to add more capabilities.
That's awesome. And as we like to say here at Amazon, these are undifferentiated heavy lifting that data developer or data scientist shouldn't have to deal
Yeah.
with. They can focus on their main job, which is training and deployment, with making sure that the model is accurate and so on and so forth. So this is a pretty huge capability. There's so many parts to this, and we discussed few of it. And I think we can't do justice just by talking about it. And the only way to do justice is to actually look at it in action. So I'm excited to take a look at a demo. I know Arun, you have a demo set up for us. So let's go ahead and see how this works. Arun, do you want to share your screen and show us a demo?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Sashank and Urvashi. I'm excited to demo some of the features that we have been working on and launched at this reInvent around SageMaker pipelines. Do you see my screen yet?
We're still waiting for a screen share.
Yeah.
Just a moment, folks. You know what they say about demos. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. All right. Cool. So here we are in the SageMaker studio screen, and let's say I'm a data scientist who wants to work on a business problem, right? I also have a team of peers to collaborate with. Now I start off with creating a project for my business use case. You can see from the screen that SageMaker provides you with a set of built-in templates for the projects. We have one for deploying your trained model, one for building and training your model, and one for an end-to-end scenario where you train and also deploy, right? The cool thing about this integration is that it's not just the SageMaker templates that will show up here, but if you're a large company, we can imagine that customers might want to customize the templates and they can bring in their own templates and it will show up in this tab, right? So let's say I will choose this end-to-end template, which does the full MLOps system, and I'm
So
going to
Arun,
select this project
the
template. Yeah,
Arun, quick questions. So the reason there are these different templates is because I imagine there are some projects that that is just about deployment, and there's some project that's fully end to end. So depending on what project needs are, you could choose one of these templates that's closest to what you're trying to do,
absolutely. Yeah.
and use that, and you get sort of something that works out of the box, so they can customize.
Exactly. Yeah, we give you flexibility on what use case you want, and you choose the one which is closest to you. And if it doesn't match, customers can create their own thing, right?
Awesome.
So for this demo, let's say we choose the full end-to-end MLOps template, right? And then you select the template and you're taken to this particular screen where you can give a name for your template, project, and an optional description and some tags if you would like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you create this project with this button, we will stand up the full infrastructure for an MLOps system, including the code repositories, the build system, code pipeline, everything fully functioning out of the box, right? This is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to skip that step to not create the project here, but I will jump off to one of these projects that I have created before,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once you click on one of these projects, you get to this project detail page, which provides a convenient grouping of SageMaker entities for
Mm-hmm.
created for this particular project. You can see that we have the code repositories created, we have the pipeline created, any associated experiments, the models that are associated with this project, endpoints, and the metadata associated with the project, right? There is no more hunting around for where
Mm.
is my model, where is my endpoint. It's all grouped together nicely for you in this
So
view.
project encapsulates all these steps. So you just open a project, you can see everything associated, including the pipelines and experiments.
Exactly,
Awesome.
that's right. So now let's dive into the pipelines. Um, as part of launching this project, we also created a pipeline for you. And if I click on this particular pipeline which we created for you, you get to see the pipeline details page where you get to see the executions that happened for this pipeline, right? So you can think of a pipeline as a definition, and you get to execute it every time with different parameters, or you can change it, right? Then you get to see the graphical view of this
So Arun,
pipeline.
one
Yeah,
execution is one entire execution of the full pipeline?
that's right. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
each of these executions are a full
Full
execution
execution.
of the pipeline.
Okay.
Um, we can get to looking at how one execution looks like in a minute, right?
Uh-huh.
The graph view shows you what are the different steps in this pipeline, right? We define the
Mm,
pipeline where she was explaining it as a workflow, right? So the workflow has multiple steps here, primarily pre-processing step, and then a training step, and an evaluation step, and a conditional step, and then a register model step, right? These are all the steps that the code defined, and we are rendering it in a graphical view so that the
nice.
customers can immediately get a view of it, right? We also get to see the parameters for executing this pipeline and the associated metadata along with it. You can learn about the permissions and other background stuff here. But now jumping back to the question that you were asking, Sashank,
Mm,
about what does this each execution mean, right? So let me click on one of these executions, and um, I can select this, and then it'll open up a tab, something like this,
mm,
right? Here you can see that we saw the pipeline definition graph in the previous screen, right? And now you can see it all marked as green. This
mm.
means that each of the step has executed,
Executed. Okay.
and they executed successfully,
Mm,
right? Uh, Whenever you select these steps, you can get to see the various details contextually associated with this step. For example, in this pre-processing step, you can see the logs emitted by that code, right in here from CloudWatch.
mm,
And similarly, this training step is interesting because in addition to the logs that was generated from CloudWatch, you can also see
mm.
the output metrics that got created here, right? Uh, and one other thing I want to show is the conditional evaluation, right? This conditional evaluation outcome, it says true, which means that this condition is checking for whether a metric is exceeding a threshold or meeting a threshold, right? So that apparently turned out to be true, and
Mm.
that's why we are going ahead with registering the model itself, right?
I think this is
So
powerful because you can have branches in your pipeline based on conditions. You can do, condition A or condition B based on some sort of a condition that you set up, right? That's
yeah, yeah, that's right. And this particular screen, allows the customers to um, in real time watch. For example, in this case it's fully executed, but if it's an execution in progress, right, you can watch that, oh, the step one is executing, and then you can watch the logs, what is happening in real time. So it's a pretty cool UX here, um, which allows customers to realize the benefits here,
this
right?
can be
Okay.
used for debugging as it's going through, and if you decide something's not going according to plan, you could intervene, right?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, if you take an execution in progress, a stop button appears, and if you want, you can quit um,
Nice.
early. Okay, so the final step we talked about was registering the model, right? What do we mean by that? Um, for
Mm,
every project you created, we also create something called a model group,
mm,
where the every execution of the pipeline is registering a newly generated or trained model, right?
mm,
This is extremely convenient because now the data scientist can keep track of the various versions of the models that they are generating out
mm.
of every time they are running the uh, training pipeline, right? The default behavior is that we have written this code in such a way that it is generated and registered as a pending status.
Mhm,
What do we mean by that? The idea is that the CI/CD pipeline, the code pipeline that we stand up behind this, we try to deploy only the approved models, right? So
mm.
this gives some control to the data science teams
Nice.
to choose which ones they want to approve, right? So if I click on this particular version, which is in pending state, right? I am taken to this particular screen. You can see that it was kind of marked as pending manual approval. And
Mm,
let's say I'm a data scientist for now. I'm looking at this metric, and then I see that, oh, the MSC metric is such and such value,
mm.
right? And I can see it, and then say that, okay, this looks good, and I want to take this to production. I want to approve it. So we give you a button right here to change the update status if you want to mark it approved, you can say approved right there, right? So that gives a lot of flexibility for the data scientists to um, retain control with them to
Mm.
choose which one they want to promote, right? S-
So if you
Now,
wanted, you could make it auto approve, but if you wanted to give control, you can do that as well. So there are both options.
that's exactly right. When you write the pipeline code, which we
Mm.
will take a look momentarily, there you can specify what you want to register as.
Okay.
Um, so now, one more thing I want to show is, taking a look at the endpoints, right? Once you approve the model here,
Mm-hmm.
you see that it's approved. The model gets deployed to the endpoints which we have configured through CI/CD. For example, in this case, we have a staging endpoint and a production endpoint, and
Mm.
this model gets deployed. But it's going to take a few minutes to deploy. So I'm going to jump back to an earlier version, right? In this version, we were looking at version 5, but this is the version 1 which got, trained 2 days ago, for example, right? So initially it was in the pending manual approval state, and then I approved it, and it reached the staging stage, and then
Mm.
it reached the production stage, right? So you can clearly see the value of model registry coming into play here, where for a given version, you can see at a glance, where is it, what is the status, and also note here how the lineage information is coming out nicely.
Ah,
You get to see which is the pipeline that created this version, and within a pipeline, which particular execution created it,
mm.
and where is it in currently in your CI/CD system, right? And which particular model group this belongs to, right?
Mm.
So the screen kind of brings together the lineage information pretty nicely. Um, so yeah, that's kind of a walkthrough for how your pipeline runs and generates a model, and how it flows through the system, and how the lineage information is tracked across the system, right?
Yeah, this is fantastic, and I especially like the lineage because that's one of the biggest pet peeves with doing your own, managing your own experiments. You just don't know what experiment links to what. Uh,
A
Yeah,
lot of
exactly.
manual tooling and keeping track of in spreadsheets, which this
Yeah,
avoids.
exactly, and I think even large organizations are guilty of maintaining spreadsheets and texts and probably notebooks, right? This is fantastic.
Shashank, one call out I just wanted to make here is that the model registry also supports cross account access. So
Mm.
in this case, the built-in template is deploying to two endpoints in the same account, but the model registry supports cross account access. So you could have your CI/CD system where
Mm.
you are deploying in a staging account in account A, and the
Ah.
production account in account B, and we will be releasing blogs and additional templates related to that.
Urushi, that's a classic example of data scientists working together with DevOps folks. So the staging and production accounts are available, and the data scientists can run their pipelines. And this is where it all comes together. This is fantastic. We have a few minutes left. Arun, I know you want to show how to build and run a pipeline. Would you like to show us how quick and easy it is to do so?
yeah, absolutely. So when we created this project, right, briefly we talked about how SageMaker creates a code repository for you and put the starter code in for you. In the interest of time, I'm just directly going to jump into this particular file where we define the pipeline in Python, right? Uh, this is a auto, auto-generated code that we checked in for you right out of the box, which is working. You can think of it as a fancy Hello World code, right? But you can see that the way you define a pipeline is, you can set up some parameters that
Mm.
we saw when we looked at the graphical view. And then we also have a processing step, which is the pre-processing step that we talked about. And then we have a training step, and then the evaluation step to evaluate the metrics, and then a model registration step, which we finally register it to the model registry based on this conditional step, right? And this is all tied up together with this nice little piece of code. Here you get to say, hey, here's a step, here's a step, here's a step,
All
and
together.
that's it, right? And then now your code is ready to execute. So that's how you
Awesome.
define a pipeline.
And each
Yeah,
of these steps are the ones we discussed. Like it could be a data wrangler step, could be a training step, right? And you specify all these steps, and with a single list here, you just combine all of them and then have it be deployed.
And
Yeah,
here
that's
you could use the Git workflow that the SageMaker Studio provides to trigger the
Mhm.
automatic execution of the pipeline, which is also really where the automation and scaling
Right,
comes
right.
in.
This is fantastic. Thanks, Arun, for the demo, and thanks, Urvashi, for telling us all about SageMaker pipelines and how it works. I think this is one of my favorite launches this year, and I think this can be a real game changer for a lot of organizations. Managing complex data sets and experiments, and yeah, so this is huge. And thank you for taking time to be here and answer all of my questions. And SageMaker pipelines is now generally available. So feel free to go check it out. We have some blog posts already available and more information on the product page. Also samples in the SageMaker samples GitHub repository. So feel free to check those out and tune in for more blog posts on this topic, as Urvasi mentioned. With that, we'd like to close, but stay tuned for more streams. Thanks, Urvashi. Thanks, Arun.
Thank you, Shashank. Thanks, everyone.
thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.